Hey guys, so happy Friday. Today I got an interesting email response to the newsletter last week, so I thought I'd take some time and write back. The gal's name is Rena from Pennsylvania. Actually, it's funny because one of my best friends' name is Rena too. There's not a lot of Renas out there, but anyway, so I thought I'd read it and then answer it. So she said, Sarah, thank you for the newsy newsletter and all your work you put into it. She questioned how the best way to do feedback right now. There's an email address at the bottom of the newsletter. You can respond to that for now. We're working on setting up an interactive platform for that, cameraman's job. So anyway, because if that were up to me, it'd take 100 years before I figure that one out. But anyway, okay, so for now, write back and then we'll set up something. So, okay, so the first question she had is, topic of interest, why are there so many derms made on YouTube coming out with skincare and cosmetic lines? Aren't there enough cleansers out there? I keep wondering how they find the time to do this. These folks see patients, most probably have families, and then they have YouTube channel, which takes time to prepare and present. And now they're competing with Asian brands, and in addition to La Roche-Posay, Avène, Australian brands. How much money do they need to do this? Then there's product design, visual design, marketing. She knows a lot about that. It takes a lot of time to research. So I'm going to talk on that topic first. So it is interesting. There's more skincare brands out there today than there ever has been. And anyway, so there's a little article that mentions there's new brands appearing in skincare makeup all the time, many which are owned by actors, musicians, other celebrities. Ariana Grande, Harry Styles, Addison Rae have announced their own companies. And anyway, so it's a huge business. I think it's at this point, what is it, a $500 million a year industry? I think that's just in the U.S. and probably even more so throughout the world. It's amazing how much money is out there. So there's so many different brands. And anyway, so a lot of these are super expensive. Some of them are more affordable. I just think it shows how lucrative some of these sponsor deals can be. That in lieu of spending 4 hours seeing patients, they'd rather spend 4 hours talking to brands like CeraVe on how to sponsor them and get paid that way. I think it says a lot about that. I think especially in the U.S., the healthcare industry is full of roadblocks and doctors. I had a lunch with a friend of mine who's a psychiatrist. She spent, 12 years in school, and she's paying her student loans, trying to make ends meet, and I thought she'd just be rolling in the dough. She's a doctor. She's a psychiatrist. I mean, the highest level in that specialty you can get, and she's not making tons of money. So I think either that says something about that industry, or it says maybe more about brands wanting the face of something with their product and sponsoring it. I mean, if you look at CeraVe, they highlight that developed with dermatologists. That line, it actually doesn't mean anything compared to any other brand that doesn't have it developed with dermatologists. Actually, I'd prefer a brand working with a cosmetic formulator or a scientist or something like that as opposed to a dermatologist. Obviously, dermatologists have their own level of skill and things like that, but this line doesn't really mean that they did much. Doesn't mean they even listened to the dermatologists. Doesn't mean the dermatologist told them what to put in there. It just says developed with it. It's just marketing. So I think it says a lot on how much these sponsorships are worth. So a lot of the derms that are on there, do you see the mentioned products and links to them and reviewing products and having specific brands they love? There's a reason for that. I think there's just a lot of money out there for that. So it's probably spending 2 hours on a video as opposed to 2 hours with patients, depending on how many subscribers you have. You probably make more money. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's just the fact. And developing a skincare brand and line, nowadays there's so many brands that are just white labeled. If you actually start a brand with unique ingredients and things like that, and your passion and your favorites, and actually doing it, that's one thing. But I think most of these brands, or a lot of them, are white labeled brands. And no knock to this brand, I really like them, the dermatology brand. If you look up a lot of their products, they're nearly identical to several other products out there. So that's one thing to consider. They're just warehoused, and there's companies that's what they do. They make skincare, and it's not, the barrier to entry is not as high as it once was 20 years ago, especially when there's 20 years ago, there's probably 10 or 20 main brands, all owned by 7 conglomerates that control everything. Nowadays, it's just a lot easier for people to enter the market and make their own stuff. I mean, anyway, so I was kind of researching it, and, to white label stuff, it's not that expensive. But then where's the soul of it? You know what I mean? I really want to make something with copper peptide, so I'm really going through the research to learn how to do that and buy all the stuff and buy all the ingredients and source them and things like that. And that gets expensive, but if you're going to white label them, it's not as expensive as it once was. So anyway, so that's something to consider. And then Rena brought up another question that was interesting. So this was the day after I did a video on cleansers. For cleanser, I just want something to remove the day's dust off my face and leave no trace after rinsing. Are my expectations too low? She said she's a flat-footed, mostly crafts designer, doesn't get it. Could you explain what a product needs to do and examine fantasy marketing associated with components of our daily routines, and also point out significant differences other than marketing between expensive and inexpensive products? And that is, to me, gets down to the core of everything that I find interesting. That certain brands, so take for example these 3 different products that are essentially very similar. Drunk Elephant, what is this? They're debronzer bronzing drops. Pacifica, they just came out with their Sunny Glow bronzing drops. And then the OG Cover FX, which was probably one of the first products I ever played with when I was getting into makeup and skincare. And this is their bronzing drops. Essentially, they're the same purpose product. Their goal is you mix it in with your foundation, you mix it with your moisturizer, or you just apply it to your skin and give yourself some bronzing and some glow. These 3 products have 3 different, very, very different price points. And why is that? So Cover FX, I want to say, is probably the most expensive. Drunk Elephant is kind of expensive. And then the Pacifica here is $16. And I've used all 3 of these tons of times now. And the benefits of all of them are very similar. You know what, if I mixed it in, if somebody mixed it in for me, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference of any of these. So why is it that one brand is more expensive? So Cover FX, they were the newest to the market. This was kind of their baby. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when they released this, there wasn't a lot of other bronzing custom drops that you mix in with things. They've got whole lines of, their bronzing drops, their glitter drops, their foundation drops. I mean, they've got a whole line of their brand revolving around this. So they were the newest to the market. So that is interesting. The Drunk Elephant, they've got, in my opinion, a good brand reputation. So why is this more expensive than Pacifica? Pacifica, they're more known for fast makeup. They release new stuff all the time. They're looked at as a lower price point. Honestly, if you mix these 2 in my different products, I probably won't be able to tell the difference. But Drunk Elephant has a reputation. They've done a great job with their marketing. And in essence, these 3 products all function the same way. And anyway, so that's something to consider. Quality of ingredients. So if you look at 2 brands like the Beauty of Joseon Ginseng Essence Water, I think I got this last bottle for $12. Then if you look at something like the Donjibi Essence, which is essentially both ginseng, this one can cost up to $100. This brand claims their ingredients are more ethically sourced. It's a stronger, a better version. It's not watered down. It's stronger than the Beauty of Joseon. So these 2 products have 2 different very price points. They function very similar, but the quality of ingredients and I guess their reputation. Another interesting thing to think about is, so Keys, their Soul Transformation Cream, and the e.l.f. Skin. They're both made by e.l.f. These are nearly identical. This one's much more expensive. It's got the Alicia Keys. I guess it's got the brand name to go with it, so people trust Alicia Keys more than they're willing to spend on just plain e.l.f. They think that the name is added value. Honestly, I like this one better because I like the packaging better. But they're nearly identical. This one just sells for probably double the price, maybe a little bit more than that. But it's just the reputation of the marketing. So anyway, so that's one thing. Newness to the market, quality of ingredient sourcing, brand reputation, and then also there's this little thing called perceived value. So getting back to the CeraVe, developed with dermatologists. Some people perceive that as having more value than something that doesn't say it's formulated with dermatologists. So this one says dermatologist developed, I guess. I'm trying to find something that doesn't say dermatologist developed, but okay, so this one doesn't say that. So, but people have a perceived value that dermatologist that worked with them on it, maybe for 1 minute, maybe for an hour, maybe for months, adds value to it. So it's perception, and everyone has a different perception of that, and that's probably why people are willing to spend more on the Drunk Elephant bronzing drops as opposed to the Pacifica. And honestly, if I ran out of both these tomorrow, I'd probably pick up the one from Pacifica as opposed to the Drunk Elephant or the Cover FX, because I think it is the cheapest, and I don't notice the difference between the three of them, but people will have some perceived value of Drunk Elephant as a brand. And some people perceive the Donjin B. They will perceive this brand as having a better ingredient, a better sourced ingredient. And again, it all kind of comes down to marketing in the end, but it comes down to who they're selling to and who's their main customer. And at this point, you know what, they're looking at everyone. And I guess a lot of it comes down to, social media. It all comes down to that at this point, and that's how you get your product out these days, as opposed to ads in magazines and things like that. So a very interesting question. I definitely think more about this and do more topics about it. So check out my newsletter if you haven't, and send me your questions. I want to do videos that you want to hear about. So that's my number one thing. And anyway, so that's why I love reading through the comments. I love emails like this because it gets me thinking about things that I don't think about on a daily basis as well. I kind of just go with my thing. So anyway, be sure to check it out. Email me, leave a comment, any questions you have. And anyway, leave your comments with today's thoughts. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. So anyway, love hearing from you, and stay tuned for more tomorrow. Thanks so much. Bye, guys.